Hey everyone, I'm Rather Incoherent, and now that I've been playing with the Edge of the Earth cards for over a month now, I wanted to start talking about which ones really stood out to me. Not just the powerful ones, but the ones that stood out to me in terms of flavor or that I really liked, and which investigators I felt really benefited from the expansion. This video is going to be less of a power rankings and more of an award show. However, the first award I'm going to be giving is to the most powerful card, and that card is, in my mind, without a doubt, Black Market. Black Market is the single strongest draw card in the entire game. It can also be used as team support if you need it for that, and there are a whole lot of combos you can do with it involving double-double, where things start getting really degenerate as you cycle through your deck more and more times. In my mind, the question is not will Black Market see a taboo, just how will it see the taboo. I want to give an honorable mention here to Cyclopean Hammer, which is like an actual flamethrower competitor for characters with 8 combined fist and head. Zoe, Mark, Leo can all make a real case for using a Cyclopean Hammer instead of a flamethrower. And I didn't imagine I would actually ever see a card that caused Flamethrower to stop being unquestionably the best choice. Cyclopean Hammer is just an incredibly powerful melee weapon that's available to a lot of characters, and several of them are mystics, which completely changes their gameplay pattern, but I don't think it's at the same level of game-breaking nonsense as Black Market. Black Market is better than Seeker's role, and it's not in Seeker, it's just a completely crazy card. Now, for most powerful card, I was ranking it fairly generally, without looking at specific use cases. But I want to rank the cards that I think are the most powerful in specific use cases. And I can't really say that either of these two are an honorable mention. It feels like a tie to me between Astronomical Atlas and Norman Withers, which is completely insane, and essentially allows you to play a deduction every single turn, and Forced Learning and Ashcan Pete, which might be a bit off the wall for some of you. Ashcan Pete has a lot of cards that he wants to run that he really doesn't need. The second copies of his allies, a bunch of skills that are situationally useful, all of the discard skills for Duke. But even though you're okay with discarding a card for Duke, you would much rather not need to do that. Forced Learning lets Ashcan Pete play a much smoother, more powerful game plan that allows him to run a lot of the more powerful but jankier cards, because he has the freedom to just throw them away if he gets them alongside something that's more generally playable in that moment. It sounds janky and weird, but the fact that I'm ranking it up there with Astronomical Atlas and Norman should encourage you to go give it a try. Ashcan Pete with Forced Learning and Jeremiah Kirby to help out his book score and his draw is so much more powerful than it used to be. I still don't think he's a crazy broken investigator, but I think he goes from being scrappy and functional on little to no experience to just being a downright great investigator no matter how you cut it. The next award's going to be for the most surprising card, the one that did the most compared to what I was expecting from it, and that's Sled Dogs. This is arguably not about Sled Dogs and more about Will York, but there are a couple of other investigators that are able to run Sled Dogs. I'm not going to be covering them in this video, and the Sled Dogs are not a mean part of the deck. It's actually a really valuable thing that you get, and to me, that's genuinely surprising. I thought Sled Dogs would always be a bad choice, it would always be a meme, but even with just the Yorick deck, I think Sled Dogs are surprising me. And the fact that there are a couple of decks I would seriously consider putting Sled Dogs in blows me away compared to how I originally viewed the card. Originally in this video, I had a section where I talked about my favorite card from the expansion, and it was True Magic. It's not the most powerful or the most interesting or the one that unlocks the most options, but I personally really liked it. And I posted a comment to the same effect in the thread on Reddit that inspired this whole video. And then somebody responded to me and informed me that True Magic has an asterisk in its name. It's a unique card. Its name is True Magic, which is a generic name, but it's unique. And I just hadn't even processed that. And the whole reason I like True Magic is because, yeah, the first one's basically just a janky, awkward Twilight Captain price, but if you get both out, then it's a complete power trip. So I was willing to run the generally worse True Magic in exchange for the potentially insane endgame opportunities that it gave you as a Mystic. And it turns out that that endgame is against the rules. True Magic is a generically named unique card with magic in its name that isn't a spell. So rather than my favorite card section, since now my world is upside down, we'll default favorite card to Sledgehammer 4 or Black Market because I enjoy both of those cards for very different reasons. And we're going to give greatest disappointment and harshest drop in opinion to True Magic instead. In a little bit, I'll be talking about the card that disappointed me the most, but I recorded that before this, before I found out that True Magic was unique. So consider that entire section an honorable mention in light of recent news. And while True Magic is my favorite card in Edge of the Earth, it's not the most satisfying card that I've played with in Edge of the Earth, or more accurately seen play with. The most satisfying card to play with that I've seen was Sledgehammer 4. To avoid spoilers, I'm going to be vague here, but I played alongside a Calvin that had this card, and there was a scenario with a recurring enemy where every other turn it would get back up and have 5 health, which is less than Sledgehammer 4's triple action. So Calvin just stood on top of that enemy and swung at it every time it got up and knocked it back down, just kept breaking its knees, and then he would spend his off turn setting up and playing cards and drawing cards, whatever. Generally, the whole campaign with Sledgehammer 4 was really satisfying to watch. At no point did it stand out as powerful. I wouldn't really want it in my deck, but it is incredibly fun and satisfying. Of course, they can't all be winners. There has to be a biggest disappointment in every expansion, and for me, that was Underworld support. I want to start by saying that I clearly understand just how bad the downside of Underworld support is. Being forced to run single copies of all your cards sucks. That said, I've also played Hearthstone, I have seen the Reno decks, which are Highlander decks where you only have one of each card, and I understand there can be a good enough reason to play a singleton deck. Because there are so many cards in Rogue that are exceptional cards that you only get one copy of, and several rogues like Finn or Jenny that only have 5 splash, so they are limited by how many of those splash cards they can have anyway. It seemed to me like Underworld support would reasonably increase their consistency in a way that would be worth running. But there are 2 problems with Underworld support. First, there's the big one that would probably stop you from running it. Your Scenario 1 deck looks like garbage. When you don't have any of those exceptional cards and you make your Scenario 1 deck and you're at like 18 cards and just shrug your shoulders and you put in all the neutral skills, just Guts, Manual Decks, Overpower, Perception, and Unexpected Courage, and your deck still isn't finished, it feels terrible. The massive drop in power and consistency you experience in the first scenario probably would kill Underworld support on its own. But what puts the nails in the coffin, and in fact doomed Underworld support from the beginning, was Black Market. Green characters probably want to get Easy Mark, just generally speaking. It's very strong in terms of experience to power. So that's 2 cards that would have replaced themselves that you just cut. Black Market's the best draw card in the game, and you just cut your second copy of that. So right now, even with just those 3 gone, you've debatably made your deck less consistent just for drawing uniques before you look at all the other payoffs like intel reports that you're cutting down to 1s. And in a lot of decks, you cut more draw. Anyone with access to Yellow Splash loses Deep Knowledge. You can get emergency cash level 2s. You probably don't want to do that, but if you did, eventually you'd be adding even more draw that you would be cutting. You just have access to enough draw that you already wanted to run in your deck that you're forced to cut because of Underworld support, that it really doesn't make you any more consistent. And I think a big reason Underworld support disappointed me so much is because I missed just how insane Black Market was when I was evaluating this on my first pass. There are so many decks where I looked at the stuff I planned before Edge of the Earth, laughed, cut Underworld support, and put in 2 copies of Black Market, and the deck was just obviously better once I finished making adjustments to it. Before I close out the video, I want to talk about a pair of investigators that both got a lot more powerful with Edge of the Earth. The first one should be pretty obvious from my most powerful cards category. I gave it to Black Market, honorable mention Cyclopean Hammer. Leo Anderson got both of those cards, rockets up the power level once he has the experience to afford all of this. Speaking of experienced cards that are new and help him a lot, Return to Circle Undone isn't what this video is about, but Howard Mirror 3 is the best healing in the game, and Leo Anderson has the most dead actions and the most ally assets leveraging their health as value of any blue character, so that helps him out quite a lot. I'm really interested in seeing how Leo Anderson shakes up as a character now, because in Scenario 8, he's clearly one of the best fighters in the game. But the experience all feels mandatory. He has the stick-to-the-plan weapon package, he has the ally package, he has the draw and consistency package. And once you're down to like 45 experience, there's nothing you can cut that doesn't feel core to his identity. So he's going to meaningfully scale up over the whole course of the campaign, and his Scenario 1 deck doesn't look terrible, but it stands out that he really wants all of his experience and probably will not be anywhere near as good in Scenario 1 as he is in 8. On the opposite end of the spectrum, Will Yorick is a huge winner in Edge of the Earth for something that happens in Scenario 1, Short Supply. Short Supply and Will Yorick may as well say draw 10 cards when the game starts. That's kind of ridiculous. I'm currently of the opinion the best way to play Will Yorick is a sled dog build where you run loads of economy to afford all of the assets that you're drawing on turn 1. Right now on the channel, I've been playing class-only campaigns, and I'm really enjoying that. But whenever I take a break from that, I can guarantee you that my fighter is either going to be Will or Leo, because I really want to show off the builds of these two characters because they're both very, very interesting and different from most of their fighters. Anyway, that's it for now. I've been Rather Incoherent. If you enjoyed the video, then like, comment, subscribe. All of that nonsense really helps the channel grow. And I'll be back with more content like this in the near future.